Hey everybody, and welcome to a brand new episode in my series 12 favorite live albums. And today we are talking about Miss Dionne Warwick, the extraordinary artist, and her amazing album Hot Live and Otherwise that came out in 1981. This was her resurrection of sorts. Dionne Warwick had an unbelievable series of hits, all of them written and produced by Burt Bacharach and Hal David. Just that, all of these songs that are now huge classics. And then they split. Dionne Warwick had a couple of years where she was in a slump. She added an E to her name, to her last name, which it was a psychic who told her to add an E to her last name. And then the albums just didn't work and she just didn't make any more hits. And then she signed with Warner and she made a series of amazing albums, which I absolutely adored, but they just didn't work, and she was very dissatisfied with her career and with the way her albums were being sold and commercialized, and she was about to completely stop. And then all of a sudden Barry Manilow came to her with the unbelievable I'll Never Love This Way Again, and then she was back on top. She won a Grammy, and then she had an amazing career with Arista Records and Clive Davis. So you can't do wrong again. And of course Clive Davis, who's also responsible for Whitney Houston's career, who is Dionne Warwick's cousin. I mean, this family, just unbelievable. Now this live album, Dionne was on top of the world because she was back. She was a star. She was doing the television special Solid Gold. It was a television show every single week. And this was her third album. She had made two albums with Arista. So the first one, Dionne, with the number one hit, I'll Never Love This Way Again. And then No Night So Long, which was her second album, which was another huge hit. Beautiful album covers on which in each one she's wearing fur, but nevertheless amazing and so glamorous. I'll talk about Dionne's style because there's something very particular which I discovered later on. So she begins the concert with What You Won't Do for Love, and she cuts into It's in the Stone. Amazing songs, fast-paced. Right away you realize that this is a huge orchestra. It is actually the John Carlton Orchestra. The whole album is produced by Steve Buckingham, who is an amazing producer. And the idea was of Clive Davis to make a live album. Then welcomes the audience and says to them that she's going to sing Don't Make Me Over in the same key as it was when she recorded it in the early 1960s. And she goes to the audience because it's very high. And of course she does an amazing job. Then she sings Alfie, another song penned by Bacharach and David. What's It All About, Alfie? Amazing song, sung by the Carpenters, Barbra Streisand as well. And Barbra Streisand famously says that she once heard it on the radio and she thought the song was amazing, but she wondered who was singing, and she called the radio station and they said it was Barbra Streisand. Sung by Dionne, the original singer of that song, and how she sings it's just absolutely beautiful. Then she sings a song called One in a Million, which is a more recent song which she absolutely adores, and it's very important and powerful lyrics, especially to Dionne Warwick's. And then she goes into a 19-minute and 45-second medley of her hit songs. Practically all of them by Bacharach and David. So she sings Walk On By, Anyone Who Had a Heart, You'll Never Get to Heaven, A House Is Not a Home, Message to Michael, Trains and Boats and Planes, The Look of Love, They Long to Be Close to You, Do You Know the Way to San Jose? All of these by Bacharach and David, and then some other hits that are her hits as well, very big hits, but that were not penned by the duo. So the theme from Valley of the Dolls, which is a terrible, terrible film, but the theme song was the only thing that was acceptable in this movie. Make It Easy on Yourself, What the World Needs Now, and then came You, which was a song that she duetted with the Spinners, although you practically only hear her. The Spinners are more in the background, and this, believe it or not, Then Came You was her very first chart-topping hit ever. Dionne sings Déjà Vu. Now this was a huge hit on her very first album. It was the second single release, and it was written by Isaac Hayes, and it's such an Isaac Hayes kind of song, you know, Déjà Vu. Then she sings Easy Love, which was another recent hit, and then No Night So Long from the second album. It was the title track, and it was also a huge hit for her. And she ends this amazing album with I'll Never Love This Way Again, which I absolutely adored. And again, I'm so thankful for these producers who put these stars back into the light, because as you know, I'm a child of the 70s, you know, I'm a disco boy. And so Dionne Warwick to me was not, I loved her, but I didn't, have any of her albums. I didn't know her all that well. But then when that album came out, and the Dionne album with that fabulous face, because she is, can we talk about the beauty of Dionne Warwick? Those cheekbones, I mean, she made an album called Track of the Cat, and on her Heartbreaker album, she's holding a cat on the back cover. But those eyes are cat eyes, and those cheeks, she is so beautiful. Now, this is one thing I wanted to say. Oh, well, I'll Never Love This Way Again. You just have to listen to the album. I'm not allowed to put any music on these videos, but she ends the song, she's applauded, and then she hits one note, without the microphone. She puts the microphone down like this, and then she just hits that note so long, and it comes out of the end of the room, and then it's like a comet. And then with that tiny little voice of hers, she says, "Good night, y'all." And it is just so, she's such a star. I just adore her. Now, what I wanted to say, apart from the absolute beauty of Dionne Warwick, on all those albums on the Arista era, if you read the back, the liner notes and the inside, it says, gown from Dionne's closet, ring from Dionne's closet, hat from Dionne's closet, because she was the original glamour girl. She was so chic and so elegant. And as I was doing some research, I was looking through all of these pictures, and I was saying it's really funny because there's something about the Supremes, especially Diana Ross and Dionne. They were singing at the same time, although the careers were very apart. They were, they never met. And there's something similar about the Dionne elegance and the Supremes elegance, but there is something different. And Dionne was introduced very early in her career to Paris by a man called Sacha Distel, who's a singer. They did the Olympia together, and he was a bit of a jet setter. He's a very good-looking guy, and he went to Saint-Tropez, and he went out with Brigitte Bardot and everything, and he introduced Dionne Warwick to Paris fashion. And Dionne, being such an elegant person, naturally just fell in love with the Parisian elegance. And that is the difference between the Supremes and Dionne Warwick at that time in the 60s, when they had the similar style, the big hairstyles, and the fitted gowns with the beads. It's that the Supremes would buy in America, they would buy from the American high-end department stores, the Bergdorf Goodmans and Saks Fifth Avenue, while Dionne Warwick, she shopped in Paris from the French designers. So there's a tiny little difference. Now they're both extremely beautiful and very elegant, and American elegance at that time in the 60s was particularly on top of things. They actually competed with the French couture. They were just as good, but there's something different because it's in America that's, something lighter, more colorful, brighter, and the French are a little bit more subdued. But the Parisian elegance is something very particular, and Dionne Warwick had that. And that's why Dionne Warwick never wore custom jewelry. She wore diamonds and emeralds and pearls. Anyway, Hot Live and Otherwise is a magnificent album, and the 4 other live songs, non-live songs, are absolutely great. See you next week for Diana Ross RCA Years. See you soon. Bye-bye.